I would like to introduce you guys to Parsa. Let me just get my introduction here. So Parsa is a developer with experience building SaaS products in the travel industry. And lately, he's more interested in creating small, focused tools that respect the user's time and developers' peace of mind. Who doesn't like that? We love peace of mind. Most recently, he's been working on a travel booking API that requires no prior knowledge about travel. Please help me welcome Parsa to the stage.
Can you hear me in the back? Cool. All right, so I wanted to start with a bit of a rant, I guess I would say. I've been seeing these memes online about like developers, like junior developers who don't know what they're doing, and then they go to the senior developers to ask about something, and then they realize that they don't know what they're doing. And basically the premise is that nobody in our industry has any idea about what they're doing. And I think that's obviously wrong. We have, as an industry, not me, transformed the world in the past 20, 30 years. So we are generally competent. And now, okay, I'm seeing some nods, some disagreements, okay. But I think it's good to think that we're competent, and it's good to hold ourselves to a high bar. So I think we've learned lessons in this transformation that we've went through for the past 20, 30 years that maybe other industries and professions haven't learned. And I think it's worth considering trying to publish and talk about the things we've learned and try to get other industries and professions to follow the same path when it makes sense. So what I'm going to demo right now is kind of my attempt at doing that. So what I'm going to talk about is my tool, Metrist. Metrist is aiming to replicate what we do with CI/CD pipelines, which is iterating quickly, trying to get feedback, not building or writing something in a vacuum for years and years on end, and then publishing that. So Metrist is trying to do that, not for developers, but for people who are writing books. And I think that's a lesson that we've learned as a software industry, that you can ship quickly and in smaller chunks and get feedback and let that inform the decisions you make over time. So it's a bit of a different tool, but basically that's my idea of how we can generalize what we've learned in the software industry. Okay, I'm gonna do a live demo, so what could go wrong there? I'm Parsa Safavi. I'm a senior software engineer at Carver Genius. We are opening up an office in Vancouver next week. There's a lot of jobs that are opening up, so do apply. And I'm the creator of Metrist. Okay, so let's say I wanna publish a memoir with Metrist. How do I do that? I'm gonna create a directory, memoir. I'm gonna go to my directory. I'm gonna open up my editor. It's an empty directory. I'm gonna make a file. Let's call it Journey Begins. It's a markdown file. We're familiar with that. And I'm gonna say, I don't want Copilot. Hello world. Let's just say that. Now I should be able to go to my directory and just say Metrist, which is the name of the tool. Watch. So what that's going to do is that's going to spin up like a web interface of just the markdown, right? We've seen similar things in the documentation space where you have a bunch of markdown files and they get turned into a website. So this pretty much does the same, but that's not the end of it. There's going to be a lot of awkward pauses today, so there we go. Beautiful. So now I have this web interface of my book. I can start. There's my chapters. I can start reading. That's my chapter 1. Sorry. There we go. And then obviously I can start writing Markdown. Everything that you would expect should be supported is supported, like images and links and all that. One thing I want to note is when I go back to my directory, now there's a bunch of other things that I haven't created. There's a meta file, which is also in Markdown, and it's the name of my book, the author, which is taken from my OS, the publishing date. You can add tags. I'll tell you why that's relevant later. I can also add like a description, and that's going to show up as like the beginning of my book here. Yeah, but I don't want to write it for myself. I want to publish it for other people to see. How do I do that? So I'm in my directory. I'm going to stop watching, and I can say Metrist publish. Getting fat fingers. And it's going to give me an error. It's going to say, okay, you need to tell me where you want to publish. Right now we have these hosts. You can obviously just get a web output as well if you just want to take it and put it on some other hosting, or if you want to FTP it on a server. I do want to publish it to S3, so I can write publish S3. It's going to take a while, so I've already created one that has all the right things. So this project is basically the same thing, but it's already ran through that command. And it's spin up a bunch of AWS services. And all it needs is my AWS credentials locally as an environment variable. So we've got the same thing. We've got our meta file. We've got a chapter file. It already adds a git ignore. And then we don't really have to worry about these config files at all. And so this is what it looks like when it's published to AWS, right? Same thing, it's on AWS. I can point my custom domain to it as well. And I can start reading, same thing. Now, it's supposed to be continuous, right? CI/CD. So we want to be able to update this. So I'm going to go back to my project. Let's go to chapter 1. And I'm going to delete all of this. I'm going to say happy. And then I'm going to open up my Git. Sure. So now if I open up my repository, so this was already configured with a repository. And I see this GitHub action running, which means something is happening, right? It's trying to deploy that to AWS. Now, this is going to take like 3 minutes, so I need to entertain you for the next 3 minutes. Does anybody have any questions? There we go. Yeah, please do.
How come you don't support DigitalOcean on your list?
That's a fair criticism.
It's really not fair. No.
It's not fair? Well, it's probably one of the cheapest options. For anybody who didn't hear, DigitalOcean, why are we not supporting it? It's the cheapest option, I would assume. So we'll do. Any other questions so far? Yep. Okay, so that's a tricky question because I started by saying, oh, we should publish this and we should let people use it. And then I started using Git and Markdown and NeoWeb. So good criticism.
It wasn't meant to be criticism.
Yeah, no. But I think it should be a criticism. And so here's the thing. I'm not creative enough to like go too far out from the developer tools. I wanted to start from it looking very much like what CI/CD pipelines look like, and then slowly kind of build my way outside of like nerds, basically. So currently the target audience would be people who are familiar with Git and Markdown, which would probably be software developers, but are also writing long-form content or books. Does that make sense?
What's the difference between this and if you're using any other CI/CD pipeline or just using GitHub Actions as well?
Well, so this tool spins up everything you need, right? So you don't really have to worry about what's going on behind the scene, the building, the website. You just run that publish command and then you start pushing your Markdown files to Git.
But then if you're, let's say if I'm using Vercel,
Yeah.
I just push to GitHub and that automatically publishes anyways. So why would I use this on top of that as a wrapper?
So all you're writing is Markdown files, by the way. You're not using a
What I'm saying is,
template.
like, let's say I create a repository, I push my repository to, let's say, Vercel.
Yeah.
And then I make some changes, I push them to GitHub, and then those are automatically published automatically to. Like if I create a repository,
Yeah.
I push that to GitHub and connect that to Vercel.
But you still need an app to serve the book, right?
Right.
And I'll get to the point where it's more than just a website. But for now, we've only seen the website. But you would still need to build out that website. You could use one of those documentation tools that basically take a Markdown file and generate a website from it. This does that, but it also does a little bit more that I'm just going to show right now. Does that make sense? Cool. I think we're almost there. Yeah, perfect. Okay, so my pipeline is finished, and I see that it's outputted the same link that we were just looking at. Now, if I say start reading, I see that it's been updated, right? So I can continually start pushing my content, and it should automatically just publish that to the website. Now, the problem is nobody reads things from just a random website on the internet, right? People have their own ways of reading things. The three ways that people read books is generally hardcover, audiobooks, and ebooks. Hardcover is a hard problem to solve. I'm not there yet. But audiobooks and ebooks, there's your audiobook and there's your ebook. Audiobook is generated through the 11 Labs API. You have to use your own API key. And ebooks is generated in-house. There's no tools being used. So you probably won't be able to hear this, but I'll try my best. Sorry, I know this is not very engaging.
Sample.
Right. Anyways, take my word for it. It's okay. But basically, every time you push, we create the audiobook, we create the ebook, and it's also on the website. Now, what's coming next is multi-language support. So it's currently a single language. You can have more than just English, but it's only one. I do want to be able to support multiple languages for the same book. Hopefully get some AI translation so you don't have to translate it yourself. Hard copy so that you can push your code to GitHub and then somehow people can order the hard copy of the newest version. Stripe paywall so that you can paywall your book and you don't have to give it away for free. And lastly, version diffs. This is very important to me because the whole idea is so that people can continually go back to your book and see the new content that's been generated. So we want a way for them to be able to recognize what's been changed since they last checked out the book. That's it for me. I just have a shout out. So this is a QR code to the GitHub of Metrist. It's open source, so please give us a star. That's the currency of GitHub projects. And then I see a few questions that I do want to answer.
We go. You.
Hello, thank you so much for the demo. That was cool. Yeah, I was just wondering regarding the configuration, if you can show us a little bit of it, like how basically you configure the GitHub Actions part and see, like I saw someone interested apparently in other APIs like DigitalOcean. So yeah, I know. Just to know how you connected the whole pipeline would be nice.
Sure. Yeah, we'll do. I'll do it very quickly. So,
I
what?
was thinking the same thing. I was also back and like, oh, I want to see how we got the S3 keys and everything into there.
Okay, so I'm standing on the shoulder of giants here. There's a tool called SSD. You can find it at ssd.dev. And they do all the work. They spin up all the resources. They use CDK behind the scene. But you can basically like have an SSD provider for a static site. So all I'm doing is generating this static site, putting it in the right path. And SSD takes care of the rest. I will show you the GitHub action just to see how simple it is. If I go to GitHub. So basically configuring SSD, configuring node, running SSD, and then I have a SSD config file, which then hooks back into Metrist and runs a separate command on GitHub action. And that's basically what takes the files and generates the static output. Cool. There was one more here, I think.
Yeah, thank you very much for the tool and for publishing it open source for all of us. Question about licensing and defense of copyright. Like, is there something on the roadmap, or is there any plan to keep all the versions, I don't know, like hashed or
So this is
automatically licensing or those kind of issues?
right. So this is for the book itself to be licensed out. Is that the idea?
Yes, because like you're writing a book, maybe you write for a living. You don't want people from just downloading and publishing before you manage to publish yourself.
Fair enough. I haven't thought about the licensing part at all. I have thought about just the mechanics of having the paywall and passwords and Stripe just built in so that you don't really have to build those yourself. You just throw in a Stripe API key maybe, then everything else just works out. But I think that the legal part and the mechanics, the non-mechanical part of that, I don't really want to add to open source project, if that makes any sense.
Thank you.
Of course.
How much time do we have left for questions? 47 seconds. Okay, we can get 5 minutes.
Oh, yeah. My question is, do you envision a version of this where the user interface is like you're typing in a Google Doc or a Word doc? Because that's what a non-technical writer would be used to doing.
I probably will have to. I don't like the idea, to be honest with you. My ideal world would be to use something like Obsidian and like have an Obsidian extension that pushes it to GitHub or something similar, so that you don't really have to know what's going on behind the scene. But I do want to stick with Markdown. I think Markdown is a good tool, and I want that to be a part of the whole DNA of the tool.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'm thinking where the writer types it and it's translated into Markdown behind the scenes. They don't know that because they won't be able to write in Markdown.
Right. Yeah, fair enough. I think that's a good step towards generalizing it to a non-technical audience. Like Discord and Slack, they all just use Markdown behind the scene, but people don't really know that. So I think something like that would definitely work. Thanks.
All right, last question. Cool, and my question is actually kind of similar, but what are the benefits of having, as a writer, like how would CI benefit you? Is it kind of like the automatic publishing part, or is it the, how does it benefit a writer? Because I'm not a writer.
Right, and nor am I. What I hope to do is to make it so that people can write continuously like we write software, right? Don't go in a cabin in the woods and write for 2 years and then come back and see if people like it or not. Try to write continuously, especially if it's not a novel, or maybe even if it is a novel, I don't know. Just try to get people to look at it as soon as possible and try to just work on it over time. And if it's not a novel, if it's actually something nonfiction, you can iterate on it, right? There's like editions, obviously, for books, but those also take a while to publish, right? But what if you could do that every month or every week? So that's the vision that I want for writers.
Cool, thanks.
I feel like you're breaking every billionaire's kid's dream. Because they want to go to arts college, right? Do an arts degree, then go to cabin 2 years and party. And
That's true. Yeah. All right. Thank you so much.